Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365, August 8th. 10 days of practice are in the books. 1 day out from the Eagles' first preseason game. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning?
Good. Yeah, a little bit gloomy out as we're dealing with some weather. We'll see how that affects the game in Baltimore. But, yeah, we're getting through it. I mean, at least I don't have to go to practice today. The 4 days in a row is a grind. The grind, Zander.
It is a grind, and you're doing great work, and everybody on the channel the numbers have been great. Everybody's appreciated you checking in every day and doing the mornings and doing the nights. So everybody who listens to JAKIB Sports, who listens to Birds 365, feels like they're up to date on this team, Johnny Mac, and that's thanks to you. So we appreciate the hard work. John, we haven't gotten it in a couple days, man. That's a shame on me. How's the calf feeling? Is it getting back to 100%? Are you creeping up closer to 100%?
Creeping up. I told Nick Sirianni, no timetable, no timetable. Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that. You bring it up because last night was the first day I didn't ice it when I went to bed, and I was just sick of it. And I was like, all right, I'm feeling a little bit better. And it was a mistake. I should have done it, but you learn from your mistakes. Don't repeat them.
Good stuff, John. Hopefully you ice that sucker up. You can get ready to rumble for the preseason game tomorrow night. You got a little bit of time here, though. You got today, and then you got, I guess, tomorrow in the morning. What time do you head down there tomorrow?
A group of us are going to head down about 2:30ish, somewhere in that range. MT and Bank Stadium, which evidently we're told they rebuilt their press box, and they made a bunch of mistakes, and there might not be great sight lines, which is a first. So I kind of chuckled. You have to request a credential, parking, and a sight line. So we'll see how it looks when we get down there, which is embarrassing for them.
Who's their architect?
That's what I said. I mean, come on, Baltimore.
Yeah, come on, man. You got to check your body.
So you're going to be talking about a new stadium down there pretty quickly. I guarantee you that.
Got to cross your T's and dot your I's. It doesn't seem like they did it, Johnny Mac. All right, well, we got a good show planned today. Coming in down the home stretch of, I guess, coming down the stretch into the first game here. They got through the dog days of summer, the 4 days. We've talked about the roster. We've talked about who's looked good and bad in camp. So a lot going on, which is good stuff. I want to welcome everybody in today. A lot of good people in here. A lot of new members, Johnny Mac. We added a ton of members yesterday, thanks to James Carver, who dropped 100 gifts. So thank you for that, James. And then plenty, I think 22 others signed up to be a member yesterday. So 122 members yesterday.
Everybody wants that Saquon jersey.
They can't get enough of them, John. And there was just a clip going around on social media of Saquon talking about how much he loved people wearing his jersey.
There we go.
So you got to get in, everybody. If you want to get in, make sure you become a member. We'll be giving away up to 20 Saquon jerseys this year. And I got some other ideas, too, to give away some more than that. I don't just want to stop there. I want to give back to the people who have made the channel so great. So we appreciate each and every one of you. Jeff Kerr is coming up in around 13 minutes. He's been at practice all week, so we'll talk to him, get his perspective on what he's seen. And then in hour number 2, a first-time guest on the show, Josh Davis, the host of the Philly Special Show on YouTube. He does tremendous work on YouTube, growing like a weed over there, and he does a great job. So we'll talk to Josh Davis in hour number 2. He's a friend of Thomas Mott. We had Thomas Mott on once. Now we're going to get Josh, and hopefully we can keep those guys in the rotation here on Birds 365 for a different perspective. So excited to talk to Josh, excited to talk to Jeff. Johnny Mac, what are you thinking on this Thursday now that the dust has settled on the 4-day run of the dog days? When you hit the pillow last night, I'm sure you weren't thinking about the Eagles, but for the sake of the conversation, what was running through your mind when you think about this team after 10 practices, 4 straight, about halfway through training camp, I guess you could say, somewhere in that range? What are you thinking about, when you think about the Eagles right now? What sticks out to you from a storyline perspective?
Feel very good about the offense and where that is. And a lot of questions about the defense, which I don't think is much of a surprise from where people thought this team would be going into training camp. The offense looks good on paper and has lived up to it for the most part. Very sharp camp from Jalen Hurts, as we've discussed, and A.J. Brown, the consistency from day to day, and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert has been in that category as well. Brian Calcaterra taking a step up. Not only Saquon Barkley, but Kenny Gainwell's having a big camp in the backfield. So everything's positive on the offensive side of the football, with the potential exception of right guard trying to figure that out, which seems to be a work in progress. And the third wide receiver spot, which is probably not going to be that important anyway, when it comes to traffic, at least, and actual barring injury. You cross your fingers from that, but that's everybody. That's every team in the NFL. Defensively, I get the kind of feeling I mentioned the linebacker churn yesterday in practice number 10. To me, it should be going the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I harken back to last year when they were rotating the safeties next to Reed Blankenship and trying to figure out who they were going to be. And it was pretty much a lot of Terrell Edmonds, and all of a sudden popping up late in camp was Justin Evans. And people forget Justin because he had the injury history, and same thing happened here. But if you do forget, he ended up being the starting safety week 1 before he got hurt. And that sort of popped up and surprised everybody. And Sean Desai was out there late in camp and saying that was the plan to get him. It was not the plan. They were just not happy with what they were seeing in other players. And that might be going on at linebacker right now as they try to ramp up Jeremiah Trotter Jr. as quickly as possible and try to figure out, what they have and what they really have in Devin White and Nakobe Dean. I do think Zach Bond's been pretty solid, but again, you don't want to build the foundation of your linebacker group on a guy who's never played off-ball linebacker on a consistent basis, I would think.
Right.
So that is a big question mark. And then corner, I think, is less of a question mark because you got a bunch of talented players. And I think if Rodgers is out there, you're going to be fine. If Ringo's out there, you're going to be fine. If Quinyon's out there, you're going to be fine. So from a standpoint, and that doesn't mean they're not going to give up plays. They're all going to give up plays. They're all young players. They're all inexperienced. But it means that they're talented enough, and they'll be okay. My only questions there are how the Eagles have gone about it and gone about getting Quinyon Mitchell ready, which I think is I think it's kind of backwards, but that's what Vic believes. And Vic's going to do what he wants to do. And he said right off the top of the bat, way back in the spring, he said, I throw a lot at him early and then scale it back. Well, you threw a lot at Quinyon Mitchell early, and we'll see when the scale back comes. I hope it's outside. I hope it's right corner, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, when Cooper gets back, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, do they just move Quinyon right to the outside, and then Isaiah and Keeley are back to fighting for playing time? Like, I don't know. I feel like part of me feels that Isaiah has earned at least some reps on the outside corner, but you got to think they're going to prioritize the first rounder. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do when Cooper DeJean gets back.
I think Isaiah Rodgers is a good player, but I'm at my. For those who watch, I don't want to bring up my Chester Taylor story because, Quinyon Mitchell isn't Adrian Peterson, and B, Isaiah Rodgers isn't Chester Taylor. So, that was a really good running back being replaced by a Hall of Fame running back,
right,
in this instance. But F Isaiah Rodgers. Sorry, dude.
Right.
I mean, that's Quinyon's spot. And that's the goal. And that's where the Eagles are going. And, help us a kick returner, help us be a backup and all that kind of stuff. And that's great depth.
But John, for those who haven't heard the story, I don't want people to be like, "Oh, John McMullen said F Isaiah." What's the story? Just real quick, so,
Well,
so people know that you're not saying
I
F
was
Isaiah
covering
Rogers.
I was covering the Vikings at the time, and when they drafted Adrian Peterson with like the 7th overall, somewhere in the top 10. I was saying to myself, I mean, I didn't know Adrian was going to turn into what he turned into. Otherwise, he would have been the first pick in the draft. And different time with running backs, obviously a little bit, but you know, one of the greatest pure runners of all time from a speed, power perspective, everything involved. But they had Chester Taylor was coming off a great season. He had about 1,300 yards rushing. He was good in the backfield. He had 400 or 500 yards receiving. It was really good. And they weren't a good team. Obviously, they were picking in the top 10, so you're not very good, barring a trade. And they had a bunch of needs. So I asked one of the personnel people behind the scenes, you got a lot of needs. Why are you taking? You got Chester. Why are you taking a running back? And he said, "Yeah, hey, dude." He said, "I love Chester Taylor. F Chester. You haven't seen this kid." And he was 100% right when he was
Yes, he
talking it.
was.
And that's, it doesn't mean Isaiah's bad. It's just, look, you don't have the ceiling of Quinyon Mitchell. And Vic said it the other
And
day.
they don't have the investment in you, the equity
They
in you.
don't have and that's no guarantee that he's going to turn into a star. But you see everything about Quinyon Mitchell. You see the ball skills. You see the eyes. You see the ability to break on the football. You see the fact that he's never really played inside, and he can play inside, and he's playing dime, and he's doing all this stuff, and he doesn't look overwhelmed. It's like, that's where I say, people worried about getting Isaiah Rogers playing time. No, I don't. I mean, no, I don't care. I want Quinyon Mitchell out there, and I want Cooper DeJean out there. Now, that's the more difficult part because he's not back yet. We got to wait to see when he gets back and how quickly he can ramp up. So it seems like the Eagles are willing to kick Mitchell inside while he gets ready, and then they'll kick him outside. But I don't want to mess with that. And the Eagles seem okay, and we'll see who's right.
We'll see what they end up doing. I think you're right, though. I think they're going to get Quinyon Mitchell out there right away, and we'll see, what ends up happening with Keeley and Isaiah and the other guys fighting. You think DeJean's when he gets back, he'll get slotted right in there at the nickel corner?
Well, no, I don't think he's going to step in day one and be the starting nickel corner, but I think ultimately he's going to be the starting nickel corner this year at some point. It's just
They'll
a matter
rotate him in at practice and then
Yeah.
ramp him up, I would imagine. Yeah.
It's just a matter if it's week 3, week 4, week 8. But the good thing is if you are playing, and whether it's Avonte Maddox in the slot or even Tyler Hall, and if it's Isaiah Rogers outside or Keely Ringo, I mean, the luxury of playing time, if you play well, nobody's taking you off the field. So if you have that opportunity and you seize it, nobody's taking you off the field. In other words, if Isaiah plays well, and they're not going to just stick Quinyon out there when Cooper's ready, just to stick Quinyon out there. So he'll have an opportunity if he gets to start week 1. So don't feel bad for him.
Yeah, he'll be good. We'll see what ends up happening. The linebacker one is another interesting one. You talked about that already this morning. The Nakobe Dean train seems to be slowing down, losing fuel. I don't know. It might refuel up very quickly if the season rolls around and he's out there and he's looking okay. But so far in practice, it hasn't been anything special from Nakobe Dean, struggling in coverage. Still think he's going to be the starting linebacker week 1?
I do. I'm dwindling, and certainly there aren't
At
many
what rate of speed are you dwindling, John McMullen?
well, it dwindles by the day where, Nakobe doesn't look at least competent in coverage because he's been fine in the other aspects. Not great, but fine. And as long as he gets to a level where he's not going to hurt you dramatically in coverage, I think he's going to be one of the starting linebackers, and I think he'll get there. I do think a lot of people ignore, we were just talking about with Cooper, ignore injuries, and his was far more serious. And the assumption is, oh, he's cleared. He's 100%. He's ready. There's still that ramp up period. And he struggled in the coverage part of it. And that's part of it. In my estimation, is that he's still trying to knock some of the rust off. And some of these guys, like Kenny Gainwell, crossing them over like he's Allen Iverson at the link. I mean, they're pretty athletic. So if you're not at an optimum level, you can look bad at times. And I think as he continues to get more reps, he'll settle down. But I mean, I also have to be honest. And one of the reasons I end up and I still in the thought process that Nakobe's eventually going to be a starter is because the other guys aren't that good.
Right.
So it's not like I'm saying he's going to be Roquan Smith or anybody. Just there's not a lot of options that are going to get people excited other than the people that want to generate and manufacture excitement. And you can do that with any team at any position, because there's a lot of good players in the NFL, and they were good in college, as kind of Vic dismissed with Nakobe. He did it in college. Yes, he did. But it's a different ball game here. So, I can't get dramatically excited about Devin White and Zach Bond, but plenty of Eagles fans have talked themselves into that. And I don't think
it does seem like, look, I'm not down there, but I will say, just from your reports, from all the other reporters I've read, Ed Kratz, Jeff Kerr, who's down there, he's going to join us in a couple minutes here. It does seem like Zach Bond is the guy that's doing what Vic requires linebackers to do in his defense the best of all of them. I don't know. That might not mean he's a good going to be a good linebacker. But from that perspective, I think Vic is going to want him on the field.
Another thing about practice that I try to bring up is nobody's game planning for practice. Nobody's trying to take advantage of perceived weaknesses in practices. When you get to the preparation standpoint of the NFL, the game planning standpoint, I think opposing coaches are going to look at the Eagles defense and say, all right, we can take advantage of these guys in coverage. And they're going to game plan to take advantage of those guys in coverage. Whomever you like at linebacker, they're going to game plan to get those guys in one-on-one situations. And then it becomes more difficult. Like right now, they're just practicing to get better each play. Get 1% better, the old cliche. Kellen Moore's not game planning to beat Vic Fangio or vice versa. They're just trying to get their players better and reps and get them up to speed. And when you start game planning and the opposing coaches, some of them are good and some of them aren't so good, but the good ones are going to look at that group and say, I can do some things against that group.
We'll see what ends up happening. Moving right along, one day out from that first preseason game. By the way, I don't know. I just checked because everyone's like, oh, what channel do I watch the game on tomorrow? I don't know what the heck channel. It says, to me, it says ABC and Fox, but it says not available in my area based on where I am, and I'm right outside of Philadelphia.
Well, there's always a local component. I don't know. We're going to have Jeff.
Yeah, we're going to have Jeff.
I assume it's, I don't know. NBC 10 is, I think, the Eagles' local affiliate.
Yeah, I just didn't know because the Olympics, so I didn't know if that would be.
Yeah, the Olympics play into it. It might be 17. It might get bumped. It'll be on somewhere locally.
It's got to be somewhere locally, or else I might have to activate the NFL Plus subscription, which still might give me the blackout. So we'll see. I'll figure that out.
Let me check out the Eagle. Well, Jeff's here. Jeff will know.
We'll get.
He's well versed in the minutia.
Yeah, he is. Jeff is a lot of specialties, and those are one of them. Let's get to our first commercial break. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Already a good crowd. Nice comment here from Jay Perfect. Thanks, Jay. He says, you guys do a hell of a job in the morning. Long-time listener. In today's day and age, no one says thank you. Just want to say thank you guys for making the offseason interesting. Jay, thank you, man. We appreciate that. Hopefully this season will be just as interesting, maybe a lot more interesting, hopefully.
I do appreciate that. He's right. Nobody says thank you anymore.
Yeah, I
do
agree. That's why I
appreciate
brought that up. That's nice of you. Jay, thank you, brother. We appreciate you for being here. Jeff Kerr coming up next, everybody. He's been down at camp. We'll get his perspective, what he's seen at practice, what he's seen from Nakobe Dean, Saquon Barkley, the right guard position, all the questions of training camp so far. We'll talk to Jeff Kerr about.
God, we got, by the way, it's on Cozy TV.
Yeah, that's what somebody just
what?
commented. Another guy's like, what the hell is
I don't even
Cozy
know.
TV?
I don't even know what that is. I
neither.
don't know what that is.
I got no clue what Cozy TV is. I'm sure it's cost like $70 or $80 a month, so I won't be subscribing to that.
What the hell is going on?
I might have to like boot stream the Eagles preseason. I might have to get on like crackstreams.com or whatever it is
we definitely need Jeff Kerr to explain to me what the hell Cozy TV is. All
right, Johnny Mac. Let's get to our break. We'll get to Jeff Kerr on the other side. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. We'll be right back with Jeff Kerr on the other side.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find, or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights, or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm, or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Up. And go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365, joined now by our good friend of the show from CBS Sports, Jeff Kerr, joining who's been down at practice. Jeff, how you doing on this Thursday, man? One day out from the preseason starter, Jeff.
Zander, you gonna buy Cozy TV?
I don't think I'm buying Cozy TV, Jeff.
Cozy TV's free, but I don't know if you can get it. Evidently, I've been doing some research. It used to be NBC nonstop. What the? I never heard of that.
If you want to watch like Frasier reruns and all those like shows that are on Peacock, all
But
the
they
old
have
TV
Peacock. I mean, NBC is Peacock. Why do they have two?
There's like 800 of these things now. And I think I saw a tweet from you, John. Isn't there like a new one coming out with Disney?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
They're doing
there is.
$50 a month. I'm like, are you
and it's
kidding me?
expensive. Yeah.
I love how streaming's the future, and you just made streaming cable.
I know.
Exactly.
You're right. You're right, Jeff.
It's more expensive if you want to buy everything.
I know.
I say this to my coworkers at CBS on NFL Sundays. They get so mad because I have the Sunday ticket. I have cable, and I'm 2 minutes ahead of them. And I was like, "Oh, did you guys see a touchdown?" They're like,
Oh yeah, well yeah.
"Oh,
that's
they get furious." I'm
too.
like, "Why you pay money to be behind?" I don't understand.
But what's the deal? Why is it on? Why is there no local component?
All right, you ready? You ready for this?
Yes.
NBC's got the Olympics Friday night.
Well, that's true.
NBC Sports Philly, where they would push it to, has the Phillies. So they're going to take
But
precedent.
they've always in the past they've made local deals, usually with 17.
Well,
where
it's
if
on.
there's some,
Yeah, and they might, but NBC Sports Philly Plus has it too. If you have that, that's
who
like
the hell has NBC Sports Philly Plus?
If you
I
had,
didn't
CNN,
even know
if you had
that
CNN,
existed.
yeah. If you had
I didn't know
CNN,
that existed.
Yeah, so that's where it got pushed to because of all their
That's
programming.
astonishing to me, by the way. I had no idea this was going on. I mean, I don't watch the games on TV anyway, so it doesn't affect me. But,
John, when's the last time you watched an Eagles game on TV?
well, I generally DVR it and watch it back after.
No. I mean like live because you go to all the games.
Yeah, there's a couple I've missed. So every once in a while, I'll watch I'm not going to Brazil, so I'll watch that game on.
Well, you're wise for not going to Brazil. You might not come back.
What channel is that game on? Peacock.
That's on
right?
Peacock. That's a Peacock game.
Well, Peacock I can handle, but I'm still surprised. I assume there's going to be a local over-the-air component for that.
So this is the NFL. What the NFL does, if there's a game exclusively to streaming like Prime Video, they have to put it on.
Yeah, they have to put it on the
air.
local. Yeah,
so it will be on NBC 10. So I keep telling fans, don't subscribe to Peacock if you don't have to.
I guess they don't care about the preseason games, and they shouldn't because But boy, this surprises me. I got to pay more attention to those game notes because if I would have saw Cozy TV, I would have took notice.
I liked Zach Berman's game note from the other day. If you saw it, John.
Which one?
The broadcast teams.
Oh, well, yeah. Man, Howard's part of the broadcast team.
Yeah, no surprise there. Everybody thought he was gone. I'm like,
yeah, but and then I saw somebody said the Eagles are afraid. I think it might have been Nick Vieira, our buddy Nick Vieira.
He's got opinions.
The Eagles are afraid of Howard Eskin. Like, why would they be? Because he's going to rip them? Who cares? I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. The Phillies did what they did. Obviously, the Sixers hate him, and the Eagles like him. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but he's part of the broadcasting crew. I don't care. I don't pay attention.
That's how I am too. It's like whatever.
But anyway, that's where we are there. So we'll turn the page on that. But I as far as this camp goes, Jeff, I was talking a little bit, and you've been there for the last week. The grind, the 4 consecutive practices. Offense as advertised, defense as advertised, right? I mean,
yeah.
Offense looks rock solid. Defense, a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I mean, give credit to Kellen Moore, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, you name it. I mean, you can find a lot of offensive players that if we had to do a stock up, stock down poll, which Jimmy Kempski did, a lot of offensive players made that list because of how well that offense has been playing. I mean, do you think Jalen's had even an okay practice this camp? I think he's had a good practice every time I've been there.
Yeah, he's been rock solid. he hasn't thrown an interception over 10 practices, which is very rare.
Don't get me started on the whole training camp stat thing.
No, well, yeah, I laugh at the stats, but no, the actual that you know how training camp practices go. You can go on Twitter and watch them everywhere else, and people put up clips, and there's interceptions all over the place.
Yeah.
Hey, because
30 through 7 in 2 days.
Yeah, because the quarterbacks tend to stretch things and tend to try to make throws that they wouldn't normally do in regular games, as they're trying, sort of like a spring training pitcher trying to test things. How far can I go with this? How can I do that? And that's the interesting about Jalen. He seems to be playing. He's taking shots, but and it's good and bad, right? It's good from the perspective of Jalen's coming off an uncharacteristic season when it comes to ball security. He seems to have tightened up on that. But you're practicing against yourself, Jeff. So that means the defense isn't taking it away, which isn't good.
There was a fan theory, and I kind of agree with them when I was, just searching through X. Is Jalen's not throwing picks a sign of how well he's playing, or should we be concerned that the defense just can't get turnovers?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think he's playing really well, and I think the defense is playing really. I mean, how many times you see the safeties are lined up basically at the media house? For those who know the NovaCare, I mean, they start too high almost every play. They're not in position to make plays, and I think that'll change as you get closer. But that's what they're working on: those generic looks, and then spinning off into the coverage. And you face the same thing every day. You get better at it. You get good at it. So it's easy. And that's why the joint practice will be so important. The Patriots aren't a great team, as they have been in the past, but their struggles are more offensively. I would say they have a solid defense.
My bold prediction for the joint practice, I don't even want to call it a bold prediction, but you are going to hear a lot of positive things about the Eagles defense after that joint practice.
Well, I agree. Yeah,
because from what I've been told up there in New England, it has not been that great for Drake May.
No, they look bad offensively.
I almost wish it was a better offense that they're playing against.
Yeah. I wish they were practicing with the Ravens, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
That would have been a great test for him.
Yeah,
or heck, even the Vikings.
Yeah, well, certainly offensively. I don't know about defensively. Yeah, you know what? Defensively would have been good too, because Flores just brings
mixes and
even in
matches.
practice.
Yeah, but like you've said, John, we have less questions on the offense, so I'd rather them get a good play against a team with a good offense to test our defense. But I don't think you're going to get that with the Patriots.
No, but I do think you're going to get a better handle on the offense. And there's probably, as Jeff says, it's probably going to look better than it really is for the defense. And it's probably going to look worse than it really is for the offense. I think you'll start to see things seeping out about, what happened to the offense? Because New England's going to be a representative challenge, and you're not going to have that constant too high look, making things maybe a little bit easier. But that's the nature of training camp, and we'll see. And speaking of Elliott's stats, he'll declare a winner or loser as well of practice.
It's funny. People hate him, but man, do they pay attention to him.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I always say that. Yeah. I respect Elliott for that reason. So
I can't do it. Like if he asked me my 2 cents.
Well, yeah, I get it.
And I know he was an athlete. I said, "Did you care how many goals you scored in practice? Like when you played soccer?" That would have been my response.
But it's a perfect fusion of understanding the modern fan and how to play into them a little bit, and he does a good job.
I respect
nobody should hate Elliott. He's a very good dude.
Yeah,
but,
I have no problem. I think a lot of fans don't like him with the Deshaun Jackson thing. I guess that's where he gets a lot of flack. I think.
Well, nobody even read that story. There's nothing,
You know what upsets me about that? There's another writer that
there's
with him on that story.
Yeah,
he co-wrote it. That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, nobody reads that story. They don't even know what they're talking about when they talk about that story.
Well, you know what, John? Perfect example. Yesterday with Tim's story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And I got a little bit caught up in that because
You had the quote at training camp. It wasn't my
Yeah,
story.
well, I did not say I did. He was asking me a question. It is not my place to explain why Tim wrote the story, which I talked to Tim after practice. I said, because these morons are taking it a different way. And, he agreed with me. And it's not my place to say why somebody else wrote a story. So when Jalen asked me, I said, I didn't write it. That's it. That's all
Jeff
I said.
Kerr, in the works right now, behind the scenes at JAKIB Sports, there's a T-shirt being mass produced for the fans. I didn't write it.
I was right between John and Martin when all this is going on. I'm like, oh, how's this going to end up right now? I'm just thinking.
I mean, Jalen, I'm not going to say Jalen likes me, but I think Jalen respects me. He's so close to the vest, but he generally answers my questions.
He did ask you directly.
Yeah. So, I mean, and by the way, if people didn't take it out of context, Tim jumped in and explained why he wrote the story, and Jalen, gave his explanation and what he thinks of it.
Well, the clip that went viral,
that big of a deal, but people take it out of context.
The clip that went viral bugged me because they purposely omitted Tim's response and Jalen's response to it. And it was a healthy discussion.
Exactly.
But we're
Jeff,
evil people.
I'm with you. That pissed me off. That 28-second clip that was put out.
I'll tell you what, Zander, I'll go on a tangent here. What pissed me off was the other day, and again, respectful discussion. CJ Gardner-Johnson, when he went on his rant, I had the next question. Asked about Brett. I ain't answering that. Everybody's like, oh, he showed up, that reporter. I'm like, no, he didn't. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, he just didn't want to answer it. That's fine.
Yeah, that's Jeff. That's the social media world we live in, where clips are pulled. Small segments are pulled, and you never.
It's awful, and I felt bad about that because the clip was pulled. And by the way, I feel, and you get this as well when you just said it about yourself, Jeff.
Yeah.
And everyone, oh, he dunked on that reporter. These morons who think, first of all, go down there, get a credential, ask your own question.
Yeah.
You'd crap your pants if the quarterback was staring at you, asking you that question. All of you. So I don't give a crap.
Yeah. It's funny because that same day, I got the quote from Devonta Smith, and I asked about Quinyon Mitchell. He said about the trash talking thing. It was great, he smiled about it.
Quinyon's hilarious with the trash talking. Like, he's such a quiet guy, and then all of a sudden,
I just love how Devonta played it out when I asked him. He goes, "Oh yeah, I only faced him once. I ran around, I caught it.
Right.
He talking trash."
AJ said he didn't talk to him. That he's like a rookie. He's like a shy rookie. AJ is obviously a big star. And all of a sudden they're going against each other. He breaks up a pass and he says, trash route to AJ Brown. That's great.
Well, for you there when I asked Slay about like how he handles Q's trash talking, he said, oh man, I love it. He's a quiet guy. Just kind of says it and goes back to the huddle.
I think that works more. Like, if you're a talker, like CJ's a talker, Slay talks more off camera, when he's on camera than off camera. He's not really that big of a talker on the field. But CJ's a big talker. There's other corners that are big talkers. I think it's more effective when you're quiet, and then you just drop it.
I would love it personally if I was a receiver going up against him. You catch a pass and that's all part of the game. It's fun.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Jeff. I got to ask you some questions about camp here. Let's get into it. One day out from the preseason game. Before I do that, Sean Mims drops $5. He says, "Get Fire Stick." I guess that's his
I have 2 Fire Sticks. I got Fire Sticks. I got Roku's. I got everything. My Cozy TV. I mean, I'm never going to use it. So why am I getting it? I'm just surprised the NFL doesn't have that over-the-air component. I'm surprised. That's all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And then
I
Carver
hate to,
says,
I hate to
Yeah,
admit
Jeff.
it, but again, my parents don't like the Miss Eagles, but they always text me that that night or that day of what channel the game's on because they know I know. I'm not going to get that text tomorrow because the Phillies are on and the Olympics are on. These are things that they're going to watch.
Yeah, it's preseason, so and if anybody plays again, get in front of Cozy TV very quickly because they're not going to be in there long. Would
If at
be my
all.
assessment. Yeah, if and I would think at all. Now defensively, I do think. I guess we'll talk about the preseason and playing camp.
I think we're going to see Isaiah Rodgers and a couple of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might piecemeal it, right? I mean, the offense, just what we're talking about. Look, if you play Jalen, even for a series, you got to play the whole offensive line. You want to do that. Those guys have been banged up a little bit.
I hope Ty Becton plays. That's the one.
Well, he's got to play, I think. A couple guys, and obviously the third receivers, and guys. Some guys have to play. Defensively, though, they need to work. So, and Vic seems to want him to play. So maybe they piecemeal it. Maybe it's offense. We don't need it. Defense, we probably need it. I don't know if that's the way they're going to go, but it would make sense.
I would agree with that. I mean, I definitely think you're going to see a taste of that defense. Do I think we'll see Slay? No, but
no.
But Isaiah Rodgers, yes. I think we're going to see James Bradbury maybe at safety.
You're going to see James at safety.
But by the way, John, that's still my big takeaway here from what I was told. Do not let that guy get an opportunity to.
I've been saying that since day one. Don't let Vic see.
On that.
They like him. They like it. They do.
If you don't want Bradbury to play, don't. I said this directly to Howie Roseman on this show. I said, Howie, if you don't want James Bradbury, you better not let Vic Fangio see him. That has been my assessment since day one. Because
that's been the talk over the last couple of days. They like what they're seeing out of James Bradbury. I don't know how he's going to fit into this, but they like it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Jeff, what else have you seen? You've been down there at practice. You've been down there all week, right? Or for the last 4 days?
Yeah, I've been there. So what we had? 10 practices, John? I think I've been there for 8.
And you've been there. You were there for the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 4 day.
This week.
So what did you see? What stood out to you? I know there's a lot of talk about the offense looking good, but from your perspective, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you're seeing at camp and that you will continue to monitor as camp goes on, as preseason goes on? And we're 29 days away now from the season opener. What are the top 2 or 3 things that Jeff Kerr has seen or is watching here in training camp?
Well, I'm like John. I probably haven't been that impressed with the linebackers. I mean, I think Zach Baughn's going to be a starter. I think they do like him there, but again, that's more the state of the position than Zach Baughan. I think they like his tenacity. I think they like his toughness. Like he's the guy. Vic Fangio likes tough players, so I think Zach Baughan is going. Again, Devin White's not been good, but he's not been bad. If that makes sense, like he's just there. Which again, that linebacker, this is what it is. I've been jumping on the Trotter hype train a little more than I probably should have. I mean, he's making mistakes, but
hey, man,
he's making plays too.
Yeah,
look, that depth chart is unofficial. I bring it up. It's made
by the communications department.
By the communications department. It's not the coaching staff, but trust me, Nick has looked at it. And they use the college slash, as a Penn State guy, you have those college depth charts. They always have the slash guys.
James
that
Franklin's
are even.
The king of the slash.
Yeah. They're even. And they had Trotter even with Zach Baughan, and they had N'Kobe and Devin even, which surprised me. I think Trotter's got a chance to play this year. Not week 1. But somewhere, because I don't think the linebackers are going to play well. And he's got some instincts, and that's half the battle at linebacker.
I mean, you and I saw it yesterday, John, when we were standing there, and he closed that play on Tyron Davis-Price, and Bond yelled, "Good eyes, Track, good eyes."
Yeah.
Those are the plays he's making. He's penetrating the A gap. He's getting in the backfield on certain plays. It's again, he's making mistakes. They're still work in progress, but
Now, what you make of yesterday? Because they churned linebacker for the first time.
all day long. It
Yeah.
was a Russian roulette of sorts.
It was the first time Devin was on the second team purposefully that I've seen, unless I missed something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember him being on the second team in any of the practices I was at.
Well, I saw him take some second team snaps earlier, but he was always with the first team and they were sort of like extra reps and stayed on with the second team. This time,
do you think Vic knows who his two linebackers are going to be week 1 yet?
I don't, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
I don't either. I feel like Vic is so honest and blunt. Like if he knew, you would know. But I don't know, Jeff, because here's the thing. Here's the other side of it. The same two guys have started all 10 practices, whereas it's been different for corners. It's been different for, I guess not. That's the only other spot on defense where it's
it is weird.
Yeah. And you know what, John, though, it was funny. Like, Vic foreshadowed the question I asked him about Trotter because he was getting the first team snaps and figured, you know what, why not? I'm going to ask him. And he said, we're mixing and matching, he basically said, like, don't look too much into it, but he foreshadowed it because he's been doing that ever since he answered that question. Mix and match.
Well, they've all gotten first team reps.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask him how he looked at the first team, and he gave me a good answer. He was fine. That's what I needed.
Yeah. So in order, Devin's gotten the most, followed by Zach Bond, then N'Kobe, then Ben Van Sumeren, then Trot.
He was BVS was a guy I thought would stock would rise in camp, and it hasn't yet.
Well, I think his stock is rising, not necessarily to be a starter, but I now look at him as almost coming into camp. I didn't think he was 100%er. I thought he was a bubble player, and I think he's close to being 100% now.
Well, I think he makes the team. Maybe I just thought there'd be more of a bigger role for him, but I think he makes the team.
Who's that you're talking about? Sorry, I missed it.
Ben Van Sumeren.
Oh yeah, John. Yeah, John likes Ben. John, I like to give John credit because a lot of other Eagles podcasts don't talk about these types of players. Johnny Mack has been talking about every player on this roster. Ben Van Sumeren.
There are two people I say that actually talk about every Eagles player. There's one of them, and Andrew DeCecco. They're the two.
Yeah, you're right. DeCecco does a great job, and we love when we get him on the show. Jeff, where are you on the Kobe Dean? Stock down?
No, it's down.
Yeah, it's down, right?
I haven't been too. I mean, he's great against the run, but unfortunately, in today's NFL, you actually kind of need to cover somebody.
Yeah, and you heard Vic say that too. You heard the coach of the defense kind of say that too the other day.
I love Vic Fangio. I hope Vic Fangio was here for 20 years. I really do.
Yeah. Vic is great from our perspective because he's just ask him a question and he'll answer it.
And he'll give you a straight answer. He'll even give you a yes or no answer.
Yep. If you talk about analytics and his sharing of analytics, he will not answer, but he will say, no, I'm not telling you. He doesn't tell his disciples, so he sure as hell isn't going to tell us. That's going to be interesting. At some point, I'm going to ask Nick if he shares that stuff with him.
I don't think he
is. Oh, you'll get a 5-minute answer out of Nick.
Nick's kind of his boss, so that's interesting. We'll see how that shakes out down the road. Hopefully, probably only going to get
needs a lesson from Andy Reid and Bill on how to keep answers shorter. But I mean, you guys are reporters, so maybe you like it. But sometimes I listen to Nick and I'm like, you spoke for 5 minutes, but you didn't give me anything. It's one.
Well, that's what he does. I think it's a calculated thing.
Jim Schwartz used to do the same thing. Yeah,
it's called word salad.
Yeah,
you basically run out the clock. You filibuster and run out the clock, and if you do that, you have to answer less questions. But I don't think in Jim's case it was a legit strategy. Like that's what he was doing. I don't think Nick's that way. I think he gets like I asked him about Anias dropping the damn football every day. Ironically,
without mentioning his name.
No, I did say Anias.
Did you mention his name? Yeah. I didn't think you did.
No, I said, how do you handle young players who are struggling with their confidence like Anias? And I gave him a chance. I said, I basically said he looks like he's fighting the football to us a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, I said, but how do you address it? Blah, blah. How do you handle a young player's lost his confidence? And he went off on this filibuster. But I don't think he was running out the clock. Like, I think he gets passionate about that stuff. And he went in and he gave a really in-depth answer. And the fact that, how many times have you been watching a football game and you hear a fan say, catch the football? And, Nick's like, well, what does that mean? He's trying to catch it. Why is he not catching it? That's how you look at it from
my buddy who I played football with for years always had a good saying. When people say catch the football, and he played receiver, he goes, yeah, but would you get there to be able to catch the football?
Well, that's part of it too. But even before you get to that point, like he's not trying to drop the football. Why did he drop the football is what he's saying. That's what you're trying to correct as a coach.
And Nias drops the football a lot.
Yeah, and what he's doing wrong, and he gave a pretty good answer. But to Zander's point, I don't think that's a filibuster like Jim would filibuster. I think that's just sort of like Belichick. If you get Belichick on a history question, he might go on. Your ear off. Yeah, he might go on for 15 minutes and burn up his whole press conference. But he's not trying to filibuster. He just gets passionate.
Bill has apologized to media members if he goes off on a tangent.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens with Nick. He gets passionate about something. And even if you look at the transcript,
he likes to talk.
He really
does. Yeah. And his last statement to me was, details are really important to me. So that's why I took extra time on your question.
Thanks to Nick, though, I probably know every member of his family.
Well, that part. And don't ask him a question about Larry Karras because you're going to be there.
You're going to be there a long time. You're going to hear about the entire history of Mount Union.
Yeah, you're going to be there for a long time.
Well, Jeff, wait, we just talked about one rookie receiver. The one that's been standing out to me, I'm not down there, obviously, but from talking to John, from reading reports from you, from reports from the other guys, I kind of like Johnny Wilson. I mean, I haven't seen him. What have you seen from the other rookie wide receiver, Johnny Wilson? Any truth to the rumor? Any truth that he might be a contributor on this team, or is he the camp darling of 2024?
I mean, Jalen trusts him. He's throwing the ball to him.
He dropped one yesterday.
He did drop one yesterday. Should have caught it, but he is finding ways to get himself in position to make that catch. And I thought he had a pretty good day 7, day 8, day 10, not so much. But, I think the stock is definitely up on this guy. He certainly surpassed Anias Smith. If I had to pick 5 receivers right now on this team, I mean, you obviously got the 2, AJ and Devonta, Britton Covey, Johnny Wilson. I know they like Paris Campbell, but Paris Campbell can't get on the field.
He's got a groin. Yep. We all have groins, but he's got a groin injury.
Yeah.
John McMullen has a calf, I think.
Yeah, I have a calf injury. Like Christian McCaffrey, it happens to the best of us. So,
but he doesn't trip over tripods, though.
I'm not going to put a timetable on it, as I said on the show. That wouldn't be fair. I forgot to ice it last night, Jeff Kerr, and I've taken a bit of a setback. So
see, that's what happens. You got to stick to the routine. If you were in the Eagle Sports Science room, they'd be hammering you left and right.
Yeah, got to stick to the routine. But as far as the routine, Jimmy Kempski's media poll came out this morning. Stock up, stock down.
One of my favorite articles by Jimmy, by the way. He does a good job of that.
Yeah, he does it every year.
Yeah, he does a lot of good work, Jimmy Kempski.
Yeah, Jimmy's a good dude. Jalen Hurts was the winner for stock up. Now, I already put out there, I picked Kenny Gainwell for stock up.
You weren't the only vote, though, right?
No, I don't think I was. But my assumption, I never thought Jalen's was that far down in my eyes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You can't go up that much if you're already pretty high.
That's why I went Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah. But I get why others selected Jalen because he's having such a good camp. I just kind of looked at it a different way. I didn't think it was that far down to go that far up. But he has been tremendous. So I went Kenny Gainwell. You want Quinyon Mitchell. Stock down, I went Anaya Smith.
I went Anaya Smith too.
N'Kobe a close second for me.
Jimmy was like explaining how close that actually was, and he still needed to get a couple votes, but
yeah,
he was doing like live tallying when he was getting the votes.
Yeah, so those are your stock ups. Was Jalen Hurts, which like, come on, I don't know, you know.
Yeah, his stock was down. That's my question. His stock was down. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great spring, but I didn't think anybody was saying he's a bad quarterback.
I didn't put too much stock into his spring because I didn't care.
Whereas when I came into camp, I was like, well, Anias is a lock.
That's how I felt. 5th round pick, he should make the team.
And now he's got to play well in the preseason. Now the good news is he's going to play a lot, and you see that's where the preseason games are important for guys like that, because he might show that he's that classic game day player, and maybe he's not the greatest practice player, and all of a sudden he's back in the good graces, and the Eagles are worrying about losing him on waivers, and he's back making the team. So those are the kind of guys.
Preseason can be deceiving too, because it's a guy who has to watch them all.
I agree.
CJ Stroud was not great in the preseason last year, but there were like 2 or 3 throws he made, and I'm like, ooh, this guy might be something. He ended up being something, but
I talked about Rick. If you go back to last year's Baltimore preseason game, Rick's had the and you were there, Jeff.
He made the team because of that.
He had the pick, and that play was telegraphed from outer space by a 4th-team quarterback. It was like not an impressive play. It was, hey, you're throwing the football right at me.
You know what drives me nuts, John? When and again, nothing against Eli Ricks at all, but he was a 5-star recruit here and he was a 5-star recruit there. I'm like, well, let me tell you something. I talked to a lot of those guys on that team. I can probably tell you who the 5-star recruits were because I was big into that stuff because I had to do it for a long time. Fred Johnson was a 5-star recruit. Thomas Booker was a 4-star recruit. You know where they are on the Eagles?
Hey, Fred's making the team, I think.
Oh, Fred's making the team. I think Thomas Booker.
Thomas has done some good things, but that's the point. Everybody's good in the NFL. I think people don't understand.
Yeah, right. You get in there, it's like, oh, this guy stinks because he's a 3rd string. He's still a great football player. Yeah. He's in the NFL for crying out loud.
Yeah, everybody's good. Everybody was good.
One of my favorite stories last year was talking to those guys about their recruitments, and Booker was one of them about being a 4-star recruit. And Sua goes, I know I'm not on that database. I'm like, I don't even think you had a star. And Sua goes, I didn't have a profile, which is insane.
Well, Sua, there's something going on. I always say there's something going on at Weber State because everybody who comes out of there
seems to be
obscenely strong. Sua did. I got to look it up. Sua did 39 reps coming out, 225 coming out of Weber State. And they all do. Everybody, check out the strength numbers from everybody at Weber State. It's unbelievable. Jonah Williams is from Weber State. He did some ridiculous.
You know what I think was a high recruit, John? I think Trevor Keegan was a high recruit. I got to look him up.
Trevor?
He's pretty good at Michigan. I mean, we'll see.
I can't remember. I can't remember if he was a 4-star. I think he was a 4-star. I don't remember off the top of my head. I gotta look him up. But
he went to Michigan.
Yeah,
and he played. I think he played every single year there.
Yeah, he was really good. There. He was really good at Michigan.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do in his NFL.
I mean, generally, if you're getting recruited to Michigan, let's see. He was recruited by Georgia, Penn State, and Michigan.
I knew Penn State looked at him.
I'm pretty damn sure that he was a high-level recruit.
He was.
If those are the 3 schools going after him. So
I was actually shocked the Eagles were able to get him when they got him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got I'm starting to think that he could be a long-term answer, but not this year. I mean, that was crazy. Zander and I would talk about that in the offseason. Everybody was like, oh, these 5th-round picks, they're going to step right in. And you've seen, Trotter's doing okay, Keegan's doing okay, and Isis had a tough camp.
Johnny was what? Johnny was the 6th, John?
Johnny was the 6th.
Johnny was the 6th-round pick.
So was Dylan McMahon, if I'm
Dylan McMahon, yep.
Which I don't think he's having a bad camp.
I haven't heard his name at all.
Well,
he's second team.
He's second, third team. He's okay. I mean, he is what he is. He's undersized. He's kind of athletic. He'll be around, whether it's practice squad or end of the roster. All of them. They don't like that. That's the thing about the NFL. They don't like to cut their draft picks anymore. Back in the old days, nobody had a problem cutting even a 5th-round pick.
So funny story. Speaking of NFL players, teams don't like to cut their draft picks. The year Fred Barnett, Calvin Williams, or Mike Bellamy was picked higher than both of them. Second-round pick. Eagles got him. Hey.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. Period.
No.
End of sentence. You got those guys. I mean, they know, because if they cut their draft picks, they're going to get fired as GMs. Now, Howie's got more rope than most.
John, I wrote about this the other day when Sean Stevens had his good day. Do we think any undrafted guys are going to make this team?
They usually like to keep one, but it was at least one. But it was, and Howie talked about it a lot in the off season, that it wasn't a good year for undrafted free agency.
No, it wasn't.
And they signed a way smaller class than they usually do for that reason. And they spent more time with the futures picks trying to pick people off other people's practice squads. So if you look at the group, McAllen Castles is already hurt, so he's out. Gabe Hall,
the kid from Maryland, they already waived. They waived him like at the start of camp.
Yeah. IEG, they waived him. So who's left? You got Dankwa. He's not going to make the team. Yeah. Gabe Hall was probably the most high profile one. I haven't seen much from him. I thought Kendall Milton had a chance if they were going to keep a 4th back.
I think Kendall Milton's going to be on the practice squad.
Yeah, I think he might be on the practice. Andre Sam and Sean Stevens, who was a late signing. He wasn't even the first wave. So probably Stevens has been the best, followed by Andre Sam. But Stevens at the corner. There's no way he's making the team. They got
the numbers. Yeah, it's just the numbers are just against them.
There's too many guys. It's
So I would say Andre Sam, but he's practiced. Well, he's not making the team.
I don't even know if Eli Ricks is going to make the team.
He's not.
Yeah, it's like there's.
They love Eli Ricks's coverage ability. They might try to find a way to keep.
But
him.
Are you putting him? How's he special teams wise though? Is he better than Josh Jobe?
Not even. Josh Jobe is.
Josh Jobe's a roster lock for me.
Michael Clay might revolt if he doesn't have Josh Jobe. He's a really good special teams player. So yeah, that factors into it. But the Eagles showed last year, that's what I was talking about. With that play in Baltimore with Eli Ricks, it wasn't even that good of a play, but all of a sudden it's on film and everybody. Remember, other teams don't get to see Eagles practice. So other
Eagles
teams
fans don't get to see Eagles.
Yeah. Practice. So other teams see the film of these preseason games and they place more emphasis on that, and that's what they're seeing. So if you make splash plays and all of a sudden you're on the waiver wire, somebody might take a shot at you. So that's where a guy like Anaya Smith can turn the whole narrative around.
Right.
Return a kickoff for a touchdown, the Eagles are keeping them, period. I don't care if there's 17 missed tackles, they're keeping them. So he's still got a chance to get back in the conversation.
That's where I agree. It's like that's why I kind of wait to do 53-man roster predictions. I only like to do one. I only like to do two because it's going to change.
Yeah.
If I run one today,
and guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to get hurt, unfortunately. Last year, Zach and Zach got hurt in Baltimore.
And wasn't that
Zach
the Eli
McPherson.
Rick story last year? He had the big interception.
Yeah, the pick six.
Yeah, and
That's what
Zach
it was.
McPherson was going to make this team easily last year.
Is he going to
Oh,
make
yeah.
the team this year, Zach McPherson? No, right?
No.
I forget he's even there, honestly.
Nicest guy in the world, but
Yeah,
no.
yeah. There are certain guys like
Shout out to our new member who just asked about him.
yeah. Like I feel bad because there are certain guys I know that are on this team, and I know who they are. I'm watching practice, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right, he's on the team. Some guys,
But
are
he's an NFL player, and he's going to be in the league.
oh yeah, he'll find a home.
Yeah, but the numbers game is too steep here. And again, they might suffer 2 injuries in Baltimore, and all of a sudden he's back in the equation. So a lot of things can happen.
What's funny, John? If Josh Joe gets hurt, Zach McPherson's a good special teamer.
He's a very good special teams player. Yeah, you're right. So
it's hard to count these. Like I said, you know, Thomas Booker could walk past a bunch of people in Philadelphia, no one would know who he is, but I can play.
Yeah, and he's got some size to him too, and they're always looking for that backup nose tackle so they can play the defense they want to play.
Smart kid too, really smart.
You know, if Jordan Davis, we always talk about important players. Jordan Davis is important because they don't have an obvious backup. So if he gets hurt, they have to play differently than they want to play.
It affected them even in his rookie season when he got
hurt. Oh yeah, dramatically, to the point they had to go out and get Linval.
Yeah.
To replicate at least his presence on the defensive line. If you remember, it was that game in Houston. They tried Marvin Wilson, and it was not good. And then Howie got on the phone very, very quickly. So they have PJ Mustafa, who you know, and
he's a good run stopper, but where's he fit?
Well, he would be fit as Jordan's backup, but right now it's Marlon Tuipulotu, who is good, is going to make the team, but again, he doesn't create that same kind of presence that Jordan Davis does. He doesn't have that size.
I don't know if you're going to get that from anyone.
Zander, you asked me about takeaway. That's actually one of my takeaways from training camp. I think their depth at defensive tackle is a lot better than what I initially thought it was going to be.
I've heard good things on Moro Jomo as well.
Moro Jones had a really good camp.
Yeah, he's doing well.
That was one of my candidates for stock up, but I had to go Quinyon.
Depends. Again, it's very layered. They're deep at 4-eye, or you know, the guys who can play 3 technique. They're not deep at guys who can play nose tackle. And that's Jordan's role. So
you know what, John, did anybody vote Cooper DeJean stock down, or did we just not care because he was hurt?
I care. I think people are nuts. Guys get hurt and people forget about them.
Cooper DeJean, to me, that injury just took away everything for him, at least right away.
It's crazy. It's like, who cares? He's out for 3 weeks, and everybody's like,
it's more than 3 weeks.
No, it hasn't been. July 24th.
No. I mean, it's going to be more than 3 weeks when he eventually gets back, because the ramp up and
I get that.
That's what I meant.
I do think it sets him back in 2024. You know, I'm not worried about the career thing where, like John's like, if you want to have this guy for 9 years, who gives a shit about 3 weeks, which I get.
Yeah, exactly.
But 24, you know, I do think it sets him back, especially at the start of the year. So we'll see what ends up happening.
No, yeah, and exactly. He's no longer relevant for week 1. Before it started, if he was healthy, you say, well, maybe he's going to be a starter in the slot.
That was one of my bold predictions. Like, Cooper DeJean would probably start before Quinyon Mitchell. And it wasn't nothing against Quinyon Mitchell. It was they needed a slot corner.
Exactly. It was more the numbers.
And now that's out the window. But again, yeah, if it's week 4, I'm looking at Jimmy's thing now to see if he got any stock down votes. He did not. So at least people are smart enough to know.
I got to talk to Sidney Brown and see how that.
Sydney, I've talked to Sydney a bunch. He's ready to go. He's raring.
I mean, he looks like, you see him spurting the other day?
Yeah, I mean, he looks phenomenal.
I mean, he looks ready.
That's the Eagles medical people holding him back, because I talk about him all the time on the show. That's a 9-month injury from a healing perspective. You have to let that thing heal. Like, if we're up to him, he thinks he can play. He feels
he would have played the first day of camp if it was up to him.
Yeah, he feels 100%. But the reality is that's an injury that you at the latter stages, you're going to feel fine, but you're not fine. It's still got to heal.
Gold star player.
Yeah. Red Star, but yeah,
Red
the
Star,
Eagles Red Star. Yeah, he's going to be back early in the season. That's another guy people don't. And they say, well, you need a safety. You got to sign Justin Simmons for $10 million.
I wish people would stop with the Justin Simmons bullshit. My God.
Well, I
if
said
Simmons was any good, he'd be on a team right now.
I said that too, Jeff. Yeah, I don't know. People love him. It's the big name trap, but I don't think they're going for him anyway. Everyone's like, "Oh, Howie better move. He's visiting the Saints." I'm like, I don't think
Howie better move. Oh, Eddie Jackson signed. Howie better move. Adrian Amos signed. And meanwhile,
no one wants these guys.
I don't give a crap.
It's mid-August. No one wants them. It was a deep safety class to begin with, and these guys were passed through. Justin Simmons, I hate to tell people this, did not have as good of a year as people thought he had.
No, he didn't.
Jeff, thanks for joining the show, man. Good breakdown. We got through a lot of stuff through training camp, so we appreciate that. You even helped us with how we're all going to watch and consume the game tomorrow.
Yeah, Cozy TV.
All right, John, are you going to be cozy in that press box tomorrow?
I don't know. I'm hoping I have a sight line. We're going to see.
I think they're working. I don't think any of us are having sight lines.
JAKIB Architecture coming soon to fix the stadiums.
Yeah. I joke, Jeff. You have to request the credential, parking, and the sight line at Baltimore.
Well, you and I are if they go by order of numbers, I think we're 3 seats apart.
I don't know.
Were you? You were like 1,000. Yeah, you're banging 1,000. I'm slugging 1,000.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the 1,000th person in the press box.
No,
in fact, I'm going to take it as they started at 1,000. So I'm going to
yeah, right. That's a better guess.
No. See, Ed Krause is 999, or Martin was 9. One of those two were 999. So maybe they started.
Weird. We'll see how it plays out. Jeff, thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week, probably. All right, man.
Yeah, I'll be on. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Jeff.
bud.
There's Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr, another guy who can dive into every position, every spot, every player on the team. And do it with you.
That's some Thomas Booker talk. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we get everything. I mean, that's what I love about this show. We get everything. We hear about every player. And I think the people who watch our show appreciate it. Speaking of the people who watch the show, John, got to give a shout out to 3 new members we added today so far. Stephen McKell becomes a member. Stephen, thank you, man. Officially a member of the channel and officially eligible to potentially win a Saquon Barkley jersey. Abraham joins. Abraham, thank you, man. We appreciate you being here. I see all your comments. Thank you so much. And then S. Betts becomes a member. S. Betts, thank you so much. We appreciate all of our viewers and all of our supporters who support the channel and make us grow. We are not backed by venture capital. We are not funded to the till. So every time you guys contribute to the channel with a like, a comment, a subscribe, a membership, it goes a long way. And we appreciate that very much. So thank you very much. We're going to get to our next commercial break here in a second. We'll have Josh Davis from the Philly Special Show, a great YouTube channel. If you're an Eagles fan, I watch Josh very often. He does a very good job on YouTube. Great editing, all sorts of great stuff on his channel. He does really good work. So we're going to talk to Josh Davis coming up in a little bit, which is great stuff. So we'll talk to him, see what he has to say about this team. I think he'll have an optimistic perspective, but we will see what Josh has to say. So we'll do that next. John, good stuff on that segment. I thought Jeff brought some good insight. As you said, he brought up some players you don't talk about often, which is always great when you get Jeff Kerr on.
And cozy TV knowledge, which we needed. So that's a positive.
Yeah.
Gotta put that on his resume, bullet point, cozy TV expert.
Agreed. Good stuff there. So, and then another new member joins, Killadell. Thank you, Killadell, for being here, for becoming a member. Can't thank you all enough. I mean, it goes a long way, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I do a lot of work on this channel. Johnny Mac does as well. Dan Cilio does as well, and we appreciate all the support. So thank you guys very much. Let's get to our commercial break. Josh Davis from the Philly Special Show coming up next on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365, a Thursday edition, August 8th, just 29 days away, everybody, from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Joined now by Josh Davis, a first-time guest on Birds 365. We don't have a lot of them. Josh, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Zander. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you, Josh. I guess we'll start out. Where are you most excited about this team, and what's your biggest worry now that we've been through 10 training camp practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am, as Zander mentioned before the break, I mean, I'm usually looking at it very glass half full. So that just for this team in perspective, I think Kellen Moore is just immediately the most optimistic part that I have. The offense, what we're hearing with emotions, what you guys are seeing and reporting at camp, the different variations. I mean, heck, it's no wonder that Jalen is playing as well as he is. I don't know if we get into the record-setting camp, how much that necessarily means, but he is playing at a high level.
Elliot's record set.
Yes.
By the way, for those, Elliot had the Wilt Chamberlain picture ready to go for like 3 days.
That was hilarious.
That was.
I told him, even if he throws an interception, you got to put that up there because that was well done by him. So for those who didn't see it, Elliot keeps training camp statistics, and I forget the numbers. I think it was 158.
Yep.
Was his record for non-interceptions. And the old Wilt Chamberlain picture where he's just Harvey Pollack gave him a piece of paper with 100 points. Everybody uses it. Elliott put 158 and Jalen Hurts is base on that. So well done. A couple shout outs for Elliott this morning, but yeah, he's been great. Josh, he's been very sharp. And to me, that's more important than because they're trying to accomplish different things in practice. They're not trying to win plays even. They're just trying to get better technique fundamentally. But he was uncharacteristic in not having – throughout his entire career, he was very good with ball security. And last year he took a step back, which to me was the biggest surprise. And I thought he would regress back to that mean because he takes care of the football. And I think you're seeing it. And I think that's going to be a positive for the Eagles. I think he's going to have a good season when it comes to ball security.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, that's the part that I'm excited about. And also, I think it's Zach Berman, I believe, who asked this in the press conference. Kind of hard to hear as we're listening from the outside, but about, the questions of, okay, cool, Jalen has this record, which was almost like something out of a movie, quite honestly, because you mentioned the 158 and Elliott being able to post that, Jalen's birthday. Like, I don't know if you draw anything up better than him to break it on his birthday, but nonetheless, the question was, is Jalen still being aggressive? Because, it's like, okay, well, you're just dumping it off, 158 times. Does it really matter? But the response was, even from Kellen, like, hey, he's still being aggressive. He's testing, he's taking shots. And from everything that I've read and seen or heard, it's still been to the same respect. So I am hopeful as well, to your point, John, about Jalen coming back to the mean or the average of him being able to take care of the ball. And certainly with him, seems to the vibes, the feel of trusting the offense. So a lot of optimism there, I will say, definitely within the offense. As far as, if we transition some areas that I'm questioning on or a little bit of negatives, there's a couple situations, couple areas. I know that y'all were just going on the topic of Justin Simmons and the safety spot, potential injury concerns, health issues. That, to me, I feel like is top of mind right now, naturally because of the Justin Simmons. But, CJ Gardner-Johnson, he changes the dynamic of this team. It's fantastic. But can he stay healthy? I mean, he's had some serious injury issues recently. And Reed Blankenship has missed time. Sidney Brown missed with a hamstring and obviously coming off of the ACL injury. So your only bona fide, sure, guaranteed, like, hey, those are our safety guys, have some injury concerns. And, you go, well, it looks like for the most part, you're riding it out with them and insert Avonte Maddox and James Bradbury, I assume, who I'm going to be watching very closely, his tackling and everything else in preseason. But I would probably lean towards safety spot, but very closely could go linebacker position because I'm curious to see how those guys play.
Yeah, we'll dive into that defensive side of the football. I think that's where majority of the questions on this team are coming. But one guy I want to ask you about, Josh, is Saquon Barkley. The newest addition. He was probably the biggest addition, or at least the splash signing of the offseason next to Bryce Huff. So I want to get your take on what you think his role is going to be. I know you're doing some giveaways on your channel. Everybody, make sure you go check out Josh. He has a tremendous channel, the Philly Special Show. So make sure you go and check that out. He's doing some giveaways once he reaches 75K subscribers. So congrats to you on that, Josh. But we're doing some Saquon jersey giveaways. I want to get your take on what you think his role will be in this offense coming into 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know who isn't excited about Saquon. So yeah, if you're not, become a member.
Johnny Mack is not overly excited about Saquon.
Become an extra member.
Well, it's ironic because I'm known, Josh, as the Saquon Barkley hater for some reason.
Well,
however, I've yet to find anybody who expects more out of Saquon Barkley than I do. So I don't know how that has dubbed me as a hater, but I think he's going to get about 1,300 rushing yards and about 350, 400 receiving, which is, you're up at 1,650, 1,700. And nobody's gone higher than that number yet. And we'll see what you think. But, I think the expectations are kind of skewed because of who else is here. So, that the passing game is going to run through, and Nick is very honest about this, and Kellen is very honest about this. It's going to run through A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and it should. Anybody who thinks it shouldn't be talking about football.
Right.
So, at some point, you only have one football. The old adage, you got to feed everybody. I just think, and when you explain it like that, Josh, then everyone goes, oh, I'm probably right. Or they go less than me. So how could I be the hater? I say to Zander every day. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, okay, so I totally respect that, and I get that point because I've said the same thing. It's like Saquon Barkley is not, in my opinion, and I understand. I've seen some comments on shows and live streams and everything else, and people are like, oh my gosh, he's going to have 2,000 rushing yards and he's going to have 2,500 scrimmage. It's, you just go astronomical crazy. But the vast majority, when we start coming down to it, is I think it's going to be less as well. I mean, probably right there with you in terms of those same type of numbers because Saquon Barkley, you got him to win a Super Bowl. Like ultimately, yeah, that's the goal for everyone. If you got him to win a Super Bowl, you want him to be healthy and fresh. If at all possible, don't have a single game with him having 25 carries or 30 carries in the entire season, right? Like keep him fresh for the playoffs because you want him fresh. And also he's going to be, I think that I believe you were having a conversation with Thomas Mott whenever you were talking about like being a special player versus having a special season, something to that sense. And I'm on the side of he is still a special player in special moments. Like he can change a game. He can make a play that not a lot of running backs can. Now, is he going to have a season, to your point, that is a 2,000-yard rushing season? No. And honestly, I hope not, because if he does, that means that we're using him a ton. And then you got some issues of, okay, can he stay healthy? Is there wear and tear for the playoffs? I want Kenny Gainwell. I want Will Shipley to get out there and get some reps. I mean, heck, if we can wrap this thing up on some games and not have, like last season that was, you can't, close out a game to save your life and everything's just anxiety driven every single game. That's what I'm in favor for. I know that's what a lot of people are in favor for, but I'm right there with you. Like in terms of if I'm going to have a projection for Saquon, probably a 1,300-ish, 300 receiving yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns. That's about where I'm at for Saquon. I think the biggest, and maybe not underrated, because I know some people have been talking about it, but the biggest thing for me is his pass blocking, like to be able to help support Jalen, especially with picking up the blitz. I know we've seen some different reps of one-on-ones, him handling Devin White 3 times. I think Jimmy Kempski was the one who had mentioned that, where I'd seen it initially. And then the same thing for Zach Bond. So you see that versus what I'm reading and hearing about, John, best of Will Shipley. Like, is there concerns pass pro? Does that inhibit him from getting on the field? Kenny G, obviously,
probably
you're high on.
Jacoby bulldoze. Well, yeah, that's a big problem for a lot of young running backs because they're not asked to do it a lot in college these days. So that's usually a work in progress. And Saquon obviously is better as a pass protector than most of the backs the Eagles have had in recent history. So that should be an improvement. And I've said that pretty consistently, Josh. The impact, I think, is more important than the numbers. And you've seen it a couple of times in training camp. They ran an option once where Jalen faked the pitch to Saquon Barkley, and everybody went to Barkley, and all of a sudden Jalen's getting 10, 15 yards in the heart of the defense. So, and then they've used them a lot as a decoy where they're just, trying to get somebody else out of the play so they can go underneath to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert. So if you can create that spacing in the passing game, better spacing for the big threats, that's like a huge impact. But it's something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, and people want to see stats. I think he could have a big impact, but not a big impact on the stat sheet, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yes. If I'm drafting, we had this conversation too of like, fantasy football, who's drafting where Saquon's going to be solid, but I was like, don't go think that he's going to be your top 3 running back in the league. Like, I don't think usage wise that he'll end up being there. He's going to win some games for you. He's going to have a special moment. As you're mentioning too. I think the moments
thing that you said is what, you're right on with that.
Yeah. But I'm just excited to see how it actually helps the other guys. Because John, as you're saying there with the spacing, I mean, everything from we knew that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're phenomenal. Dallas Goedert to me is a very fascinating wild card, especially seeing the 3 touchdowns that he got at Eagles Open Practice. How does Kellen Moore use the tight end position? But you can only account for so many, as there's only so much to go around with the offense. But as the defense, you can only account for so many guys. And if you come up and say, hey, we're gonna stop Saquon because he's Saquon, you load the box, and great, you make life easier. If not, you play it back, and then all of a sudden you just run it with Saquon. You hand it off. So I love the option.
And the 4-minute offense, as you mentioned, closing out games should be better. They had a lot of problems. This is a running back that can hopefully close out games a little bit better than they've had previously. So I think it's going to have a big impact, but I just, I've said, I don't think he's a great player anymore, but I think he's a very good player for this team. And I've talked about the Giants dichotomy because that's one of my pet peeves. Like, for the Giants, he makes no sense. They're a bad team. they've already had him as a foundational piece. It didn't work. For the Eagles, he's a luxury. He makes sense, and he's a weapon for a contender. So he's not a good fit for the Giants, but he is a good fit for the Eagles. I think that's evident. And
who didn't
Giants
love seeing
made a
the
good
clip
decision.
from Joe Shane on Hard Knocks, and
Yeah.
John
And I know about being taken out of context in this day, particularly because I said I didn't write it, but Joe was taken out of context. He said, if we offer him this and on Hard Knocks. So they never offered him a contract, but the clip that came out made it seem like he did. And that's why nobody wants to do Hard Knocks moving forward.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, John points that out all the time. The NFL it's still a business, so there's tough conversations that most fans do not want to hear. Like John points out, if we had a fly on the wall for the Hassan Reddick conversations in Philly,
not
every fan would be happy about that. Yeah. But Josh, let's move into the defense. I think there's a lot more questions on the defense, but I'll start on a good note here. I think I'm very optimistic on what I've heard from Quinyon Mitchell so far, the rookie first rounder. What do you think his role will be on this team? You think he's going to be that starting outside corner? There's a lot of names there. Even your buddy, Isaiah Rodgers, who you've had on your show, you're giving away the helmet at $75K, so good stuff there. But what do you think of the cornerback position, Quinyon Mitchell, and how that position might play out?
Yeah, it's I think as Fangio said in one of the recent pressers, being asked about Quinyon, he's like, well, no, not necessarily the plan initially for the slot, but it's a luxury, like you say, with the versatility that he has. It's a great position to be in with that. But I think long term, obviously, he's going to be in the outside. I'm curious to see, and I don't even know really that I've come to the conclusion of how I think that it'll play out. For how soon or how much he would move to the outside. Because if Slay, from John, you can attest to this, seems to be playing well. And most of all the reports are that he looks fast and fresh and, healthy from the surgery.
Still thinks he can outrun Isaiah.
Well, and that's
not.
And we can see about that. I will never actually get the race. But I love the optimism from Slay. So you got to love that. And appreciate the veteran leadership, the fact that Q looks up to him. He's getting tips and pointers. Maybe Slay goes the entire season. Like at some point, there's a drop off. Either that or he retires on top, right? Like we win the Super Bowl, he moves on. But at some point, you see it from every player. Now, hopefully he can keep up for this year. But the luxury is if Q doesn't have to play on the outside much, and then, hey, you're like, well, you got some injuries or Slay does start declining, you just slide Q over there to the outside. But that's the part where I'm going to be curious or interested about is seeing, does Q take over on the outside at some point in the season, or he's got the ability because Vic's moved him inside and he's a guy who, seems to be able to play with some physicality. He's able to tackle. They've moved him into the dime hybrid linebacker type of role. So just moving him as a piece all over, I think it speaks a lot for Fangio because he's not gonna insert, as we know, a young player out there unless he's confident in him. So I think you got a baller. I mean, I felt that way. People, say, hey, who do you want? Draft night before the draft, I'm like, Quinyon Mitchell, please give him to me. I assumed you had to trade up by the fact that he just came and landed in your lap there. I mean, it's like, okay, you just go ahead and take that one. But
well, I want to get your thoughts because you're an Eagles fan, Josh. I want to get your thoughts because I've said this. It's amazing to me as a reporter because, and even we do it, Vic Fangio is so well respected in this league. Sean Desai was here last year. We know how that went, but he is a direct disciple of Vic Fangio. Vic loves Sean, by the way, for those who don't know. If he did what Vic is doing with Quinyon Mitchell, we would excoriate him. We would say, what in God's name are you doing? You're playing him in the slot. You're playing him, as you mentioned, dime. Essentially a linebacker in the dime package. What are you doing? Now, Vic showed up in the spring and he told us all, I like to throw a lot at him early and then scale back. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? Most people start slowly and then you build up. He's the exact opposite. He's like, I'm throwing the kitchen sink at him and then I'll scale it back. And he's thrown the kitchen sink at Quinyon Mitchell and it's been great. I mean, he hasn't been overwhelmed. He seems competent in all these roles. But ultimately, even Vic admitted that this week he's playing outside corner. Ultimately, you don't draft somebody in the first round to not play cornerback, and he's talking about outside cornerback when he says that. And Cooper DeJean is still here, hurt, but he's coming, and he's a really high level prospect who's probably going to play inside. So, are we just saying, oh, it's Vic Fangio, so it's great, or should Quinyon Mitchell be on the outside? Because that's where he's going to be anyway. So why not get there as quickly as possible?
That's it's a great question, and you're right. There's maybe a double standard. 40 years is a little different, obviously, for Vic Fangio than a Sean Desai. So maybe sometimes it's a do as I say instead of a do as I do situation. But he's earned the right to try things out, and he sees something that's like, hey, let's give it a shot. Let's give you some reps here. If we're pressed into that point later in the season, maybe it's a positive, or I guess it is a positive because you have the reps for Q. But it's one of those situations where he sees enough to be able to throw that at him, but eventually move him to the outside. I think that it's just a little bit of a surprise for naturally all of us, but it speaks to the surprise for the coaching staff, I believe, of, hey, Isaiah Rodgers is maybe better than we thought he would be. Certainly not as much rust from what all the reports were from you guys at mini camp and seeing him there. But then able to keep up that level of play. So the question that, it's got to be, at least in my mind, is, hey, we're trying to get the best players on the field. And with his scheme and his system, moving players around all over the place, or at least kind of give the offense different presentations. And, if you got Zay out there and you got Q and you got Slay and you have to mix match and have different alignments, maybe that's not the worst thing. That's the only thing in my mind where he's going like, I just got to get these guys on the field and we'll slowly figure this thing out. And again, it goes back to the depth. Eventually you can move Q over to the outside, but for sure, I mean, like you mentioned, and as Fangio said in the presser, you don't draft a first round corner for him to not play outside. I mean, that's where Q's ultimate spot will be, but it is fascinating. It's a great problem to have because I don't think many of us figured we'd be sitting here, especially you rewind 6 months ago and be, hey, you got your first round corner and he's playing the slot right now in most first team reps. Like, but it's a good luxury to have. And I will trust Vic because, to your point, yes, if it was Desai, the hypocrisy would be a little bit there because I would be screaming and yelling like, what on earth is he doing? So
I appreciate the honesty there. Yeah, I think everybody would. So I think it's to me, it's kind of funny, but I get why Vic is tremendous. I get why people, in a lot of ways, I think the Eagles' defensive plan was, let's build up the offense and have the best offense in football, and Vic will figure it out on defense. And
yeah,
I think that's kind of the plan. I really do. And you're right. He has earned the right to not be questioned, but I just find it a little bit funny that if Sean showed up because Sean mimics everything that Vic does. And you saw it last year with Bradbury. When he moved Bradbury to the slot, and I'll raise my hand, we were all like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And he was doing the same thing. He was like throwing the kitchen sink at everybody and seeing what they could do. And everybody was rightfully saying, what are you doing? It's just, that's a little funny to me, I think. And it shows you the difference between experience and inexperience, even though he learned from him. He was doing the exact same thing Vic would do.
For sure. Yes. Yeah. I guess he's got like you say, the 40 years of experience to look back and go, hey, I remember doing that and it worked with this guy or this alignment. It didn't necessarily work as much for those. That's where obviously he'll get the benefit of the doubt from most people. But yeah, if it's hey, we're going to try this, you got the one season with Chicago and we're going to see how this actually works now. The wheels were ready to fall off. It didn't take much. And then it was like, okay, he's lost his mind. Everybody just jumped ship, me included. I was like, I don't know what we're doing.
Gosh, let's move into the linebacker core. I think the biggest, and for me, the biggest question on the defense. What's your concern level with Nakobe Dean? Start with him. Just coming into this year, where are you on Nakobe Dean?
Yeah, I'm concerned about Nakobe. I've gotten a lot of comments, and you guys maybe have too, as far as especially mentioning him. But a lot of times, whenever I'm going over the show recaps from camp and everything else, and including Johnny Mac's tweets and everything, like I report what you guys are throwing out there. And so, if there is something positive, I'm like, hey, you know what? Nakobe did this today. He was good in run defense, or he was good at blitzing. But in terms of coverage, people keep going like, why are you hating on him in coverage? I'm like, I'm not seeing or hearing much of anything in coverage. If anything that gets reported, it's usually he got burned by somebody. And you saw it in the Eagles open practice, which, back to Fangio, called him out specifically, which, some people love it, some people don't. I appreciate the honesty, but that's the most concerning part to me. And I think it is for a lot of people, because as Fangio said as well, you especially look at today's defense or today's offenses and the way that they're utilized the slot position or extra wide receiver on the field. Your linebackers need to cover. And, we certainly know that from last season. I cannot see. I've got PTSD still. I've got the visions. I've got nightmares of Nicholas Morrow over the middle. I've got nightmares of Zach Cunningham was serviceable-ish. But again, we were living with scraps there last season. And even Nakobe at brief times. I'm just concerned with what I'm hearing and reading. John, you could speak to this more, but right now, I would be shocked if he ends up getting on the field as a starter, because I haven't heard much of anything of like, oh, cool, great. There's some confidence level of, yeah, he can actually guard with relative consistency for a linebacker. I don't care how great he is with run defense. If he can't do that, there's no way he's going to see the field.
Yeah, I like your description of serviceable-ish, because I think that might be the upside of the Eagles linebackers in coverage. Unfortunately, one of the issues, Josh, is remember the Eagles offense isn't game planning for the Eagles defense, so they're just trying to get better. And I always try to put myself in the opposing coach's eyes, like, all right, what am I going to attack? And you say defensively, you're like, oh shit. What am I going to do? Who am I going to try to stop? And offensively, you're like, I'm going after those linebackers. I don't care who it is. I don't care who you like. Devin White, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Trot, who's, I think now is in the equation for getting on the field at least later in the season if things go wrong. Ben Van Sumeren, same category. People are going to target those linebackers in coverage. And Big's going to have to figure out, try to protect them in the best way possible. That's my biggest concern. You mentioned safety. I think CJ is a good player. Now, the health, yes, that's an issue. I think Reed is among the most underrated players on the Eagles. I think Sidney's going to be fine. And the Eagles think he's a high-level prospect. He'll be back in the mix early in the season. I'm way more concerned about the linebackers than the safeties. I think everybody's going to game plan to get those linebackers in space in the passing game, to the point maybe you see a ton of dime at some point from Vic Fangio. If guys can hold up and run defense, it's that bad at linebacker. That's my perspective. I hate to be a downer. That's
I mean, I can appreciate it, because just keeping it real as Fangio would. I can appreciate keeping it real. It is a lot of question marks, no doubt. I mean, you gotta have people that even with Devin White, you want to bring him up, and people are lots of optimism, and I am as well. But he's got to prove it. Like last year was not there. I know there were some injuries and contract and all this other stuff. So like a refocus. Got to prove it, a chance for him, all that. So he could be fine, right? But a lot of these are ifs, really big ifs and questions. And you have those at a lot of positions, as we could say safety, but safety feels more of those if they stay healthy. Linebacker is if they play well and if they stay healthy. And you do have some areas, as Fangio was talking about, saying like, hey, in today's NFL, you got to have good inside linebackers to play good defense. Like you need that for a defense. I think that was telling, and also him to be like, we're coming along. He's not there yet. So, what does it tell you in terms of who did he want? How he went out and got, how confident he feels about the position based on what he's seeing so far. Granted, they did go out and get Zach Bond pretty quickly in free agency. So it does tell you that Fangio was high on him to a certain point. Was that immediately like, hey, that's going to be one of my starters? I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's looking like that point now where he's going to be a starter, as of how he's played in camp. But it's an odd format, because I think a lot of people, myself included, whenever you got Zach Bond, the question or the thought was, oh well, he'll be more of the edge rusher, right? Like he'll just be another depth piece. You can move him around a little bit, and very quickly, in multiple press conferences, it seemed like Fangio's been unsolicited. Hey, who do you like at linebacker? Don't ask specifically about Bond, and he just throws his name out there. So the potential, great, but you do think about to last year, and it feels a little similar, because we're going, okay, you may like him, there might be some potential there, but do we have something that we can hold our hat on and prove it? I don't know. And the scariest part to me, John, about what you said is, if the offense is not game planning right now just to specifically beat that defense, but they're just testing things out for a offense that we saw all of last season was like, hey, when in doubt, what do? You attack the linebackers, you throw it over the middle of the field, first down, and you just do it time and time again. I hope it's not a replay from last season. I know everyone does, but yeah, I mean, I can understand it is right up there in terms of safety and linebacker concerns. I mean, those are the two for me. Mine's a little more the health concerns, because I don't know where you go beyond that with the safeties. And I am very excited to see the potential of Zach Bond. But again, all the reports and what we've seen from coverage, it doesn't make you rest easy on that. That's for sure.
No way. Josh, last one for me, brother. Thank you for being here, by the way. Make sure everybody, if you're listening, go and follow Josh or subscribe to him on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at the PHI Special. Josh, appreciate you being here. What do you think the floor for this team on defense has to be? You talk about Super Bowl aspirations. Last year, they were the 31st ranked passing defense. You obviously weren't going to a Super Bowl with that type of defense. What do you think the floor has to be for this team to reach their potential or reach their ultimate goal, which would be getting back to the Super Bowl and winning it? How good does this defense have to be? Where would you put them on the ranking in the league for the floor?
Yeah, so I'll keep it optimistic here. A 31st ranked defense almost won you the division, right? So like if you had a 29th ranked defense, maybe you win the division. No, if we start there and then we work our way back. But realistically, and I think most everyone would agree to this, you have the old adage of, defense wins championships, but it's, you can argue against that. This team is built, and there are other teams in the NFL, but this team is built. The offense is going to win the Super Bowl. If you're going to do it, it will be through the offense. The defense needs to be serviceable enough. It reminds me, not to the same extent, but just to use the analogy of Kansas City's first, I guess winning against us, which maybe people don't want to bring up, but that was not a defense winning that form, as opposed to last year, the defense showed up in a big way to carry them a lot of times through the season and even in the playoffs. This is going to be offense. You got to go out there and put up close to 30 points every game. Like that should be the expectation. You have so many weapons. You have a coordinator. I know there could be some slower growing pains early, figuring things out, but once you start get humming towards the end of the season, hopefully that's the case. The offense is what this team is built around, and they don't shy away from that. But the defense, for me, I mean, just be average, just be middle of the pack. Like I think if you're a top 15, you could be that 15th ranked defense. That should be enough to get there because of the way that this offense is. And in today's NFL, we've seen it a number of times from other teams. You should be in the game if you can make a few stops, if you can get a few turnovers. It doesn't have to be the prettiest. You just have to be able to duct tape it together, hold it together enough for the offense to get on the field.
That's the same thing. Top 5 offense, Vic will figure it out. That's the plan.
Yeah.
At the PHI Special, as Zander mentioned, real quick, I forgot to mention Bryce Huff. You're concerned there.
Yes.
$17 million pass rusher. I bring up, look, nobody looks good against Lane Johnson. Hassan Reddick didn't look good against Lane Johnson in practice. He showed up when he didn't have to play against Lane Johnson. So your concern level on Bryce Huff.
Yeah, I think that you kind of beat me to it there as far as if he's going up against Lane or even Mailata occasionally. I don't know if you've seen many of those reps, but for either of those guys, for players going up against, you don't look the best against those tackles. It's a little bit concerning because of, sure, you're not hearing a ton, but Fangio being as brutally honest as he was, of going like, yeah, he's not there yet. about more of the coverage piece, but still, if he's going to be asked to asked to be in different positions in this defense, you signed a guy, you paid him a lot of money. The thought or hope would be that yes, it's still early, but you'd go, yeah, we're confident in him. Now, again, you can love or hate it, but that's who Fangio is, so he's going to call it like he sees it. But there's a little bit. I wouldn't sound the alarms for sure. I'm not freaking out by any means, but the Haas situation, that wasn't going to happen. We're seeing it play out in New York. But either way, you paid money for Bryce Huff. Hopefully he's the guy that gets you those 10 sacks. I do believe that there's not going to be an issue as far as his work ethic and the way that he plays. But, in terms of production, especially in those high leverage situations, does he make plays? Does he come up with those? Or are we sitting here, 5-6 games into the season going, man, I don't know, like insert somebody else. We see if Nolan has a shot, possibly, I would love to see it because I'm a huge Nolan Smith fan, but there's a little, I would say we're not at a panic mode, but there's just a little bit of concern on that side.
Yeah, the concern for me is if he's not good, the pass rush is in trouble because look, you like Nolan. I like Nolan too, but we haven't seen it yet from him, so I don't think we can count on him. But we'll see what ends up happening. Josh, go ahead.
I was just saying real quick, the one point that I made for Bryce Huff as well, I do think that he's kind of like that wild card for you, because if he's great, in my mind, you need somebody to take a little bit of attention off of Jalen Carter, right? Like Jalen Carter, if he gets one-on-ones, he's going to be wreaking havoc all day, but he's not going to get many because people know how great he is. If Bryce Huff gets you 10 sacks, if he gets more than 10 sacks, phenomenal. But even if he gets you 10 sacks, it's enough for a defense to go, hey, look, we have to somewhat be concerned about him.
Right.
And if you get a little bit of attention off, that's where Jalen Carter. So to your point, Zander, yeah, whatever you could do to take some pressure off of Jalen Carter, even Milton Williams, you throw that out there. I'm excited to see what he does. Fangio finally has him now after trying to trade for him last year. But yeah, I'm excited. We'll see on that note. One quick question too, John. I was going to make sure, is your knee doing good? I appreciate you gutting it out during Eagles.
It's a calf. But,
calf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've had like 6 operations on my knees, so that's always an issue. But the calf. I tripped over a tripod. The worst people in the world are those TV people. But yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Okay, well, we appreciate you gutting it out, seriously, because you guys are the eyes and ears. So I just go based off of y'all's reports, but I do appreciate
grind.
it.
I got through 4 practices, so if I can get through that, I'm good.
There you
I
go.
Appreciate it.
Johnny Mac's on the pup list, Josh. He's slowly working himself back. He's getting up
non-football injury list.
There you go. So you never know what that means, but there you go.
Yeah. Josh, thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate it. Your first time on, we appreciate you doing it. Your YouTube channel is great. I encourage everybody, if you're watching, to go and subscribe for a chance to win the helmet. The helmet is as good as it gets. It's a white. It's signed. It's
really
I
saw
cool.
Isaiah when he brought that out. Everybody was excited by it. Now Isaiah's playing tremendously, by the way. He seems to have taken a lead over Kaylee Ringo, but ultimately it's going to be Quinyon. So my thought is, why not get there as quickly as possible? Because Quinyon is a high level prospect.
Yep. So we'll see what they do there. Josh, thank you for joining the show, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, brother?
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you.
All right. See you,
Thanks,
Josh.
bud.
There's Josh Davis joining the show. Good first-time guest there. Appreciate him coming on. Thought he had some good insight, as he always does. Make sure you guys go and check him out on YouTube. He does a great work there. So we'll take one more. Actually, no, we only have 3 minutes left, John. Let's just get to the end here. Good show today. We're 1 day out now, John, from the first preseason game. We talked to Jeff Kerr, a reporter. Who
preseason football. Is there anything better?
I don't know.
Everything.
Not only
everything.
Not only preseason football. Preseason football on Cozy TV.
Cozy TV, yeah. Cozy. We're giving pre-plugs. Come on, Cozy TV.
Yeah, you're right. We need a.
You're getting NFL games. Come on.
They haven't heard that. They haven't had this much pub in years.
Yeah.
Cozy TV.
Yeah. Good for them. Good for Cozy TV.
John, but here, we joke about it, but here's the one thing I will ask you as a fan. I'm more of a fan, morphed into the media role I'm in right now. We have a lot of people watching that are fans. What's the viewer's guide? Like, what do you look for? You're not looking for Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Are you looking for the depth guys? Are you looking for special teams? Like,
you're looking for guys like Anaya Smith is a guy. He's got to play well in these games. He's had a bad camp. Nick didn't dispute that. It's hard to dispute that. Nakobe Dean in coverage, we were just talking about. He's going to have to play, and he's going to have to improve in coverage to get back to where he once was as a foundational piece. It's amazing to think he was once a foundational piece of this defensive plan. He's got to step up. A lot of people are excited about Johnny Wilson. You get to see him for the first time, see his size and how that equates against somebody else going against another team. And that's the biggest part. They've spent 10 days practicing against each other. Brandon Graham talks about this all the time when his many battles over the years is with Lane Johnson that I just talked about. Like, they know everything about each other, everything. And Brandon can maybe get the better of Lane a little bit at times because he knows everything about him, and vice versa as well. Now you're facing a new team and a talented team, one of the best teams in the NFL. So it's going to be mainly depth against depth, but it's going to be able to test your depth against new looks, new coaching. And if anybody takes the preseason seriously, it's John Harbaugh. They won 24 straight preseason games. They did lose to Washington last year, which tells you how much I pay attention to the preseason. But that's amazing to win 24 consecutive preseason games. And the Ravens, by the way, have been fined multiple times for too much contact in the offseason and the spring work.
Physical squad.
He is an old school coach. For people that have been around Eagles football for years, they know him from when he was here. It's one of Andy Reid's top assistants. Old school guy, preaches physicality. A lot of good things from playing the Ravens in the preseason. Hopefully, one is injuries, because Zach McPherson and Sean Bradley both got hurt down there last year. So that's the worst thing preseason is obviously you want to come out as healthy as possible.
Yeah, good stuff there. Great show today. Johnny Mac, two good guests today with Josh Davis and Jeff Kerr. We appreciate both of them for being here on the show today. I thought they both brought good insight, different perspectives. So good stuff there. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll be back on JAKIB Sports from 2 to 6 today with the National Football Show. And then we'll be back in our regular time slot tomorrow on Birds 365 from 8 to 10 a.m. So thank you all for being here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. I think we had a really good day on the likes, up 114 likes so far. So thank you all for the likes, for the comments, for everything, for the subscriptions. And then a shout out to our 4 new members that we got today. Kill Adele became a member. Thank you, Kill Adele. S. Betts became a member. Thank you, S. Betts. Abraham. Thank you, Abraham. And Stephen McKell. Thank you guys for becoming a member. One super chat we missed, John. James Carver. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. $5. Not bad for Josh and first show, given it's like having a Forrest match against Mike Tyson or first QB start against an LT. When you show up, they go with J Mac. Good stuff, James Carver. I agree. Going up with Johnny Mac is no small feat, and I thought Josh did a good job. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. All right, man?
All right, sounds good. Everybody have a good day. Get ready for preseason football.
Tomorrow is officially a football Friday, everybody. See you tomorrow on Birds 365. Hit that like button on your way out. We'll see you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.